assume that we are live. I'm not even on my page. I can't see it. But this is all good. We're all good. Today, welcome. This is Mission Unstoppable. I am so excited that you guys are here with me today, and I'm extremely excited that Alison Storm is able to be back with me today. We had a little hiccup last week, but you know what? It's all good. She's here now. Yay. So I want to introduce you to her. She is an amazing modern-day spiritual intuitive and channel, an author whose personal story I think is going to blow you away. Alison brings forth the wisdom from the higher realms to help people like you and I find our purpose in life. As well, she supports the collective awakening of humanity on the planet, and that's a big job. Ali was not always centered in the woo-woo world. She used to work in corporate fashion world in New York City. So how did she go from there to where she is today, attending national events, launching her new book, Project One, and helping people like you and I find our purpose? Welcome, Ali. I'm going to let you tell the story because it's more exciting for you to tell your own story than for me to tell your story.
Yes, I'm quite the professional at it now. So thank you for that. That's always nice to hear. And yeah, it's been kind of a crazy trip for me because I was not always in the woo-woo world, as you call it. That's what my husband says too. He says we're a bunch of wackadoodles in the woo-woo world. But yeah, I came from a very cutthroat corporate world in New York City in the fashion industry. I grew up in Ohio, and I moved to the city and decided to work very, very hard in the fashion world, and I did. And I achieved quite a career. And one day I was randomly walking down the street, and somebody said that they were intuitively guided to give me a book. And at that time, I knew nothing about spirituality at all, like nothing. And I took the book. I somehow just knew I should trust them. And I took the book home. And that night, I ended up having my first energetic awakening. But I didn't know what it was that I was processing, but it was physical. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I started feeling physical sensations moving through my body, and the room started moving like psychedelically. And I was like, wow, this is really crazy. I don't know what's going on. But I was getting so excited about the words that were being said on the page. And that night I went to bed and I had my first out-of-body dream. From that, for the next 2 weeks, I was just like surging into the higher dimensions without knowing that that's what I was doing, but that's what was happening. And 2 weeks later, I woke up in the morning and my body started moving in like convulsions and spontaneous asanas and lots of weird body positions and things like that. And I was scared. I knew something was happening, but I didn't know what. And I was scared, but something told me to just trust what was happening. And so I did, and I allowed that process to happen. And it lasted for a couple hours. And then I tell people what happened after that was truly like, I lost my mind, like completely. I had what later I found out was a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. And the following period after that was really a period where I felt heaven on earth, like truly heaven on earth. I embodied the higher dimensions in my physical body, and it was pretty much not sustainable in the physical body. There were many times I felt like I was like having organ failure because the energy was so intense. And I tell people often my brain was like gone, you know, it was just totally gone. I was completely in a different place. And one of the things, you can't remember an awakening like that because it actually doesn't store in the memory of your brain. So you can't intellectually remember that. But I do remember moments of it. And one of the things that I remember was I was walking down the street and my stomach muscles were completely sore. And they were sore from laughing so hard, from so much joy. And I was like, I can't believe my muscles are sore from laughing, but yet I have nothing to laugh at, like absolutely nothing. I'm just in that level of ecstatic love and joy. It was
Wow.
bliss beyond bliss. And it was truly remarkable experience. And I just couldn't believe it. It was like every day I felt like I was like going to pinch myself and wake up or something. My whole reality had completely changed. You know, it was like I was living in the same reality, but yet it was completely different. It was wild. It was a wild experience.
So where did you get your frame of reference from for what was happening? And
The book that I got.
oh, the book that you were reading. What was the name of that book?
I Am the Word by Paul Selig. It's channeled literature.
Paul Selig. Yeah.
It's channeled literature. And it was my activation into this world. And I didn't know, like, I did not, you know, I didn't understand exactly what was happening. You know, I knew I eventually realized I was having a spiritual awakening. But I didn't like Google about it or anything like that. I just didn't feel drawn to do that. I just wanted to be in that energy. That's all I wanted, was to be in that energy. And so I spent most of my time reclusive, alone in that energy, because that's all I wanted. And that was my fastest way of accessing it, was being alone in my apartment. I was a single woman at the time. And so that was the easiest way for me to access, was just being by myself in that energy in these higher dimensional spaces.
So what about at work? What was happening? Did people go, Allie, what's wrong with you? Like, you're different.
I did not tell anybody. I mean, I kept it so secret. I didn't tell, I mean, even my dad, it took me a long time to tell him. I actually had a sit down face-to-face meeting with which was so silly. I don't know why. That's how scared we are, right? Of like God, right? We're that scared.
People want to believe in God, but then they want to put you away for believing in God.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's like major deconditioning of past life programming that's been embedded in us. But it's funny because he's so supportive, but yet at the same time, I was so scared. Like I was doing something really dark or something, you know, like, oh my gosh, he's going to think I'm like the Antichrist. It's so silly, but that's what I thought at the time. And so, you know, I kept it a complete secret. I had a couple people in my life at the time that was like an outlet for me to be able to talk to about this. But for the most part, it was top secret for the first 8 months, you know, that I was in this state. And then 8 months into it, I met my partner, who's now my husband. And it was one of these crazy experiences where when I met him, I just like knew I was supposed to talk to him, kind of. That's what it was. I knew I was supposed to talk to him. And I was so baffled by him as a person. He's a very baffling person. And I was just like, what is this about? Like, I don't really understand this. But yeah, I knew I was supposed to talk to him. And as it progressed along, it ended up, he had a spiritual awakening at the exact same time I did, simultaneously. Wow. Yeah. And we had like some pretty major common denominators in the spiritual world. In the physical world, we had almost nothing in common. In the spiritual world, we were very connected. And that was when my awakening completely shifted. It all went downhill from there.
Sideways.
It all went sideways once another person entered into the picture. Spirituality is great.
The bliss wasn't there anymore.
What?
All the bliss went.
All the bliss went out the window. Once you get, but that's what relationships are for, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they're there for. And he was the perfect mirror for me. I mean, he couldn't have been, like, God could not have picked a better mirror for me, because this man triggered up every single insecurity I have ever had in this life and any other life. I mean, it was terrible for me from the get-go. Like, I was constantly on edge, triggered. I mean, it was really, 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 really tough. And I learned, it took me about 7 years. I often wondered, I was like, why did I
Why
have
this person?
why? I mean, this is crazy. I experienced heaven on earth and then it gets all shattered and like taken away like that. And I knew I was supposed to be with this person. I knew that walking away from this person was not the solution to it. And I finally realized I had to really integrate that awakening. And I still am to this day. It was a very big awakening. And I had to really integrate those energies that I had accessed through my life, through my physical life. And that was very hard work, very, very hard work for anybody that's going through it. They understand it's really a reckoning of the self and really forces you to look at yourself, look at all your myriads of issues and make peace with them. And that's what I've done for the last, 7, 8 years with this man. And finally, so interesting enough, we went through this entire process together. I mean, I guess he is the definition of a soulmate because we went through this process together. And it was July of 2019 that we were really, we were at our wits' end. And it was like we had gone up and down, up and down, up and down, and we just couldn't take it anymore. And finally, we got a message, and that message was that we really had to unite and unconditionally love each other, regardless of our egos. And we did. We both did. We did right away. And immediately with that, we just entered into the 5D world again. It was like, I just went right back into 5D. It was like,
She's talking about fifth dimension in case you don't understand.
Yeah, it's a higher dimensional space, and I just went right back into that space again. And it was exactly 3 months after we united together again that I began channeling Project One, which is what I can share about today.
So I just want to ask you, so they were called the forces of higher collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And did you ever ask them why? I mean, the obvious question is, why me? How'd you pick me? Why me? Did you ever ask that question to anybody? God?
No, I didn't actually. Isn't that weird? I often just, I feel like it's part of my personal process of expansion. I was so completely terrified of channeling for such a long time. I mean, it really, when Project One first came to me, they came and they spoke through me and they asked for my commitment in dictating this project. And they said, it's your choice. You don't have to do this. This is your free will. It's your choice. And they said, but if you're going to do it, we would like for you to be committed to it because we have to move quickly because the world needs this information right now and we have to work at an accelerated pace. And so I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And I was like, God, I pray that I'm doing the right thing. I hope that this is, this information is in alignment to truth and love and God. And
what would have made you think it wasn't?
It's just such past life conditioning that I was doing something wrong or defiant against God. And Project One really had to hold, the forces had to hold my hand through this process because, they kept showing me, they kept pointing at my life and they're like, look, your life is filled with God all around you. There's nothing but love around you. Don't you see that? You have to start flipping your fear into gratitude for this ability that you've been given. And you have to use that ability, yes, to serve truth, love, and God. But you cannot be scared of your own ability because I was very scared of it at first.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. And so it's I would talk with my mom about this and she's like, Allie, it's kind of good that you're scared of it because it keeps you in alignment. You're wanting to be in service to love, which is the most important thing. And the fact that you're questioning it is probably good. You want to make sure your alignment is, very, very strong. And so all that difficulty that I went through in my life with Johnny really what prepared me for this, because I really had to make sure that I was practicing the higher virtues. And the higher virtues, I mean, love, unconditional love, forgiveness, compassion, mercy, grace, all those things that we should be practicing in our daily lives every single day, that we have to work at every single day to practice those higher virtues.
What about the time when you told your mother that God existed?
So that was really funny.
That is funny.
That was when I first had my awakening, and I went out into the street, and I was like totally dumbfounded by what I was seeing, because I was seeing through the eyes of the higher dimension. And I couldn't believe that for the first time I saw God. And I was like, I've never seen God like this before. And I knew in that process that everybody was going to be seeing what I was seeing at that time. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I knew that this was going to be experienced for many people, not just me. And so I went back home and I was like, Mom, do you know that God is here? And she's like, yeah. Yeah, I do. And I was like, no, you have to understand God is really here now. Like, it's completely different than what it was before. And she's like, no, Allie, I get that God is here. Like, I really get that. And I said, no, I don't think you do. God is really here now. This is totally different than what anybody has ever seen before. Because if people were seeing God the way I'm seeing God right now, they would not care about school. They wouldn't care about work. They wouldn't care about their cars or their houses. They wouldn't care about shopping. They wouldn't care about their barbecues. It would all be out the window. And she was like, and then she started to realize, she's like, what's going on with you? Like, what are you processing?
What are you on?
What are you on? Exactly. What drug is that? But yeah, she ended up being like a huge support system of my awakening, which was amazing, because she was brought up Catholic. And so, for me to open up to something completely foreign and different.
They have a hard time with that.
You would think so, but she didn't. She didn't at all, because she knew my heart was where it was supposed to be. That's what she knew more than anything. And she knew as long as my heart was where it was supposed to be, then everything would end up, then I was being guided, So yeah, it was quite the experience for me.
So you've got this ability, you can now, you're intuitive, and the channel came. So when the first time the forces came and they talked to you and you channeled them, because I think you have the ability, I know some people who channel, they don't know what they're saying. They don't hear what's going on, but you do hear what's going on.
I do. So I'm like a bypasser watching what's being said. And so I can watch it. I just can't think about it or respond. It's like my system is over here to the side, so that something else can come through. And I can be over here to the side while that other thing is going, but I can't interject. If I interject, I have to stop. And that happens. I do that all the time in my one-on-ones, where I'll channel, and then I'll say, I need to stop for a second, and then we process, and then I go back into it. So it's just, that's kind of how the process works within my energetic system. I like to compare it to pregnancy, because when you're pregnant with a child, you're sharing your womb with another being. It's kind of like that. And it feels a lot like that, but it's in your entire body, and it's all energetic. It feels like your energetic system sort of gets compressed, so that another energetic system can sort of come in and be able to use you as a tool to be able to get words out. That's how I understand it to be.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So when they first did this, were you like, whoa, this is like really weird. This is really strange.
Oh my God. I was like kind of freaking out, but I knew it was real. I had been channeling before Project One, but it was different, because I was channeling more like my higher self. That was different. It was more like I was just extracting information from a higher dimension.
You weren't talking for them.
Yeah, this was much higher energy. I could feel quite a significant difference in the process of it, and it was also entering my body in a very specific way. It was coming, Project One comes through here, and that I had not experienced before, and so it was very different. And the thing about Project One, it's very scientific, and I'm not scientific at all, and that's partly what made me nervous, is because I grew up Catholic and biblical and all these things, and here I'm channeling this very scientific energy that's very neutral. It's very neutral in a lot of ways. It feels genderless in a lot of ways. And so that was it's very progressive. And I was not used to that myself, because here I was reading like metaphorical biblical stories. I was all about metaphors and the Gnostic text and the Kabbalistic text and all that kind of stuff. And here I'm channeling something very scientific that was it was so random for me. And I was like, okay, well, they have something they want to say. And the more I kept channeling, I was like, wow, this information is like totally groundbreaking. And I knew enough at this point about spirituality and consciousness that this was new information. And I was like, whoa, this is new stuff.
So they said, we need you to do this project. We need you to do it really quickly, but we need you not to give it to the world until 2020, when the energetic codes are correct for that information to be released.
Right. Well, they came to me in October of 2019. I got 3 months to channel the project, and then I had it off to be transcribed. And that was in like late January, early February. I got it back, and then I got it back like end of February. I got it off to an agent the week before COVID hit the US, and he fast tracked it for me.
Nice.
And got it out within like 6 weeks or something. It was crazy timing. And Project One told me that's how they told me up front in October. They said this has to get out in 2020 because of what's going to be happening in 2020 energetically for the planet and what's going to be happening on the planet. So we have to work through you quickly for this to happen.
So how is it going with Project One? Are people hearing about Project One? It's
amazing. So I have to tell you what it is the people that are getting it are so primed for this. Like, they're so there, it's like crazy. And they're so able to take it, and they're having major experiences with it that that's why I'm like, whoa, the affirmation that I'm getting back. And it's a lot, it's funny. There are a lot of men that are doing it. My husband does the practice every day. I have men that do my group calls, and they are having incredible progression with it. But the women are like, they're so intuitive, and they are so in alignment to God. Both those things are just making them like powerhouses, and they were just ready for this. It was like they were just ready. So I feel like it's getting into the hands of very powerful women, meaning women that have a lot of innate power, that were prepared for this. And from there, it's like funneling out. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to watch, because Project One does talk a lot about the feminine resonance and the healing of the feminine resonance. And they do say that is the first like call to action, is to heal the feminine resonance.
So the world is going through a transformation. I don't know, is it a healing transformation, or is it a chaotic transformation where, you kind of break down systems and bring it all back together again? I do know a lot of people are awakening to the 5D. Some are in the 4s, some are getting to the 5s. And it's a big deal. I mean, it's been a big deal for like a couple of years now, I think, maybe even a bit longer. But the book starts, the higher collective consciousness talks about, it's very important about accessing your free will. You have free will. You don't have to do this, but you can do it. And the whole idea is really, it's a difficult time to love other human beings. But it's something that is important. So, those closest to you have to start to love, I guess. But it's about the feminine resonance is off. It's been off for a long time. energetically or in our bodies, or I don't even know for how long it's been off, but there's been something, a rewiring is supposed to be taking place. Do I have it correct like that? Like, it's like we have to rewire the feminine, and the feminine doesn't have anything to do with being female. It's an energetic
right.
resonance.
Yes, absolutely. So they talk at length about that, and they say the feminine resonance, it does live in the male and the female, but it's different within the both male and the female. They say that it lives in the womb of every female and in the heart of every male. And what I have found is that through my own personal work with Project One and my own personal experience with Project One, and I didn't understand this when I was channeling Project One. It's something that I had to go through the process of to really understand it, is that the feminine resonance is so deeply suppressed in women, the female form of the feminine resonance, because they're starting really with the female form, right? That's what they talk about a lot in Project One. And it's so deeply distorted. And it happens a lot. You'll see it a lot in most women. It starts as young as puberty is when it really goes into a deep distortion. And it starts around body image and sexuality, are huge, huge, huge physical manifestations of the distortion of the feminine resonance. And unfortunately, we live in a society where most girls are immediately, these belief systems are put upon them that they have to do X, Y, and Z to have a happy life. And that includes having a certain body, having a certain sexuality, you know, having a certain boyfriend or whatever that is. And it's all a lie. It's all a complete lie. You know, you don't have to do anything to be successful in life. You don't have to do anything to be happy in life. You just have to be you. But these belief systems are so deeply ingrained into the culture.
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing is a deep, deep problem with the distortion of the feminine resonance. And they say once that is healed, once the female can say no to those lies and really see those lies for what they are, really understand that the ego is manipulating her in so many ways, because the ego makes you believe that this is all going to make you happy, you know, and your ego does get happy when you achieve X, Y, and Z, you know, your ego does get happy. And so you feel that false sense of elation, but that's what it is, a false sense of elation.
It is. But I mean, but society has set us up that way too, male and female,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Male and female, that you're not beautiful unless you're this, or, you know, you get gray hair and now you're not beautiful anymore. Or, and I can tell you from myself that I wrote in one of my books, I talked about, you know, you hit a certain age, it was 50 was okay, and then you hit 53, let's say, and you become invisible, and literally invisible, right? Like
terrible.
Like, and it was like, oh, what just happened here, right?
It's terrible. Yeah.
You know, you felt like a woman all these years, and all of a sudden, like, nobody looks at you, nobody is like, you're discounted, you're discounted, and so you feel like you're not a part of the system anymore.
Right. Exactly.
You know, you're not a part of the world anymore, and you're scrambling. You know, you're in midlife, and you know, you're starting to, and you're scrambling for your place. You're going, where's my place now? I'm not a mother anymore. I'm past that. My womb doesn't work anymore, and this and this and this. Now I'm a grandmother. Okay, but you know, what is my place as a female? Because I don't think it stops. You don't stop being a woman. Just because
no, you don't.
So, you know, so what's that role look like? And now you see, you know, some older women becoming models, and they're celebrating the gray, but what is that? I mean, it's just another way to perpetuate that you're beautiful if you do this. But
exactly. And really, it's deconditioning the bigger belief system that's there, that you even have to be beautiful, or you even have to be like this, you know. And that's what's going to bring happiness, because that's not what's going to bring happiness. That's what our society has valued. That's what we have built up, these belief systems, all based in fear, and all the fear of being unaccepted, of being not loved. All that fear has perpetuated it. And
so what do men have What do men have? I mean, is there project 2 where men get an awakening and they say, you know, we're not as perfect as we think we are?
I actually don't know that
Be
yet. I
nice to
will
know.
say they said something pretty interesting on one of my calls the other day, because somebody asked that question, because it's a lot about right now. So I had a womb awakening after Project One, which I never really didn't understand what a womb awakening was. But I experienced this thing where I had this intense energy spiraling in my womb. And I knew it was, I just didn't know what was going on. It was getting to the point I was going crazy and I didn't know what to do. And finally, I laid down to allow the energy to move up my body, much like Kundalini energy. And it ended up moving up my body. And this time it just didn't stop. It just kept going. Like every day now, am able to take energy from my womb and move it up my body. And when you move the energy up into your heart, you can move into unity with the divine. And that is like a sacred place. And so I realized, holy crap, when they say the womb is the Holy Grail, they really mean the womb is the Holy Grail, but you have to go through this process of the healing of the feminine resonance. And so that's what Project One had me experience. And the womb is, you know, symbolized by the triangle, the upside down triangle. And so somebody asked, well, what's the triangle for the male? And they said, there is no triangle for the male. That's so hard for you to believe. You know, that's so hard for you to believe that the womb is the most sacred, holy space in humanity. It's so difficult for us, but it is. It's truly this sacred, holy space. And when we have sexual exchanges with another person, we better be really careful, because that womb is it's the holy space. And I didn't know that until I went through this process. And Project One really had to show it to me. They kind of had to like smack me upside down and say, look, see, this is really good information we're bringing.
It's really bizarre too when you think about it, that if the Bible was correct that they invented man first, doesn't make sense.
I know.
The chicken or the egg. Well, really it was the man and then the woman with the holy womb. But so in Project One, they talk about soul intelligence. You need free will, you need soul intelligence. So let's talk about what is soul intelligence.
So this is another amazing concept that they brought through, and it's basically the law of the multidimensional universe. And basically what it says is that because you have this component inside of you called soul intelligence, which is a component of your soul, they call it the record keeper of your soul. It basically holds information from every single lifetime that you've had since you've been conceived, since your soul has been conceived. And because of that soul intelligence that lives within you, that lives within your field of who you are, you're able to access all those other dimensional spaces at any point in time. Humans believe that we only live in the physical dimension, but we don't. We actually have the ability to access all these other dimensional spaces with utilizing our soul intelligence. And our soul intelligence is there to be able to support us in accessing those other dimensional spaces. Now, this was news for me when I channeled it, and I was like, oh, this makes sense. You know, like what's being said makes complete sense. And it's part of a practice that they give. It's a protocol that they give that you're supposed to do every day, where they help you with your soul intelligence to be able to access these other dimensional spaces. And from that other dimensional space, you do consciousness work. And it's like doing consciousness work on the physical plane, but it's way more potent. It's much stronger when you do it from that dimensional space than doing it from the physical space. So it's a whole law that they're basically bringing into Project One, and they bring through a tool to be a protocol that you can do every day that can support you in your own healing and your own, progress. They start off with this protocol with just doing with the divine or with the feminine resonance. They say that, as we shift and as we become more comfortable with accessing other dimensional spaces, they'll give us more information to be able to layer into that consciousness work. So that it kind of seems to me like it's almost becoming like an interdimensional being in a way. That's where it feels like it's going. It's like they're showing us a greater capacity that we have as humans.
Yeah.
And as we open up to that greater capacity, we'll be able to do much more significant work to be able to help the human species. It sounds kind of far out when you say it, but when you start doing it, it's actually not that far out. And when you read Project One, they kind of break it down into this sort of grounded scientific explanation of energy particles and, how they work differently within the different dimensional spaces, and how basically you can access it with consciousness, right?
The thing though is you have the energetic code of the 333.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to do it at 3:33 a.m. or p.m.
Right.
For it to work.
They say that is like they compare it to, like, they said, well, to give you an example, we'll compare it to the new moon or the full moon. A lot of people that are doing spiritual work now understand that when they do certain meditation practices on the full moon, it's like an energy vortex. It's stronger that day of the year, especially when you do it at the full moon, They compare it to exactly that. They're like, it's very similar to that. It has to do with the location of the planet and the energetic field and all that kind of stuff. So that helped me a lot when they explained it like that, because I didn't get it at first. I was like, well, what about the different time zones?
Yeah, I mean, and I get that. I just find it difficult always at 3:30 to be available to do the work, and then you think,
me too. By the way, I do it as many days as I can. Me and my husband have to take turns, so I never get to do it 7 days a week ever. Yeah. I'm lucky if I get to do it 4 because I have a toddler. But I figure if I can do it 3 to 4 days a week, that's better than nothing, right?
So it's interesting that they talk about the multidimensional and then the multivernacular. And in the multivernacular, which is really being able to speak in all different languages or understand different languages, the one that they do bring in is telepathic.
Yeah.
So I guess we will become telepathic at some point.
Yeah, that's how they explain it. They say that we have the capacity, and we know we have the capacity.
We know we have the capacity because you can, sometimes you just hear what somebody's not saying. You hear the word.
Yeah, and they say, listen, you do it when you pray. You do it when you pray. That's what you're doing. You're speaking telepathically when you pray to whoever your God is, whatever that is. When you saying prayer or affirmations or whatever that is, that's you speaking telepathically. Well, you actually have the ability to do that with each other and with higher energies, so you can do it interdimensionally and in the physical dimension. And they call it multi-vernacular ability. Which is interesting.
It is interesting. The whole thing is very interesting, really,
Yeah, oh my God. When I was channeling Project One, I would tell my husband, I did it for only 25 minutes a day. And because I had like a 2-year-old at the time, and I was doing workshops and stuff, and it took 3 months. And every day I'd be like, I can't even begin to tell you what's coming through in this channeling. He'd be like, really? He didn't really take it seriously. He kind of did, but he kind of was like, really? Like, what is it? I said, Johnny, it is groundbreaking stuff. And he's like what? And like stuff that's never been talked about before amongst any other spiritual teachers.
Yeah, because you hear a lot of people, I mean, for years people have been talking about the divine feminine, and like, what the heck's that? What is that? Like, why do people talk about it, right? Like, there's no meaning to me for that, really.
Exactly.
And they didn't know that our divine feminine it's out of kilter. So now we got to get it back in kilter. But the good thing about what's interesting about this Project One and the the instructions is that you start healing you, but then it becomes you healing other people.
Yeah.
Really, it's about you healing others and helping to heal others.
You're so right, and you're so good at interviewing for Project One. I wish you could do every interview because you're moving into the bigger point at large of Project One, which is oneness. And that is the aim of Project One, is for humanity to move into oneness. And they say that we can only do it if we elevate each other. We have to hold each other in the highest potential. And that's why it begins with using your free will to do that in your daily life. But then it takes you all around, and it ends with really being able to use this higher capacity to heal each other and to move into the greater oneness of humanity, which is a lot of where we need to go, obviously, and where we can go, where they say we are going. The energy that I channels, they're very optimistic. They say that, listen, we know you're seeing the world going down into chaos. We know that the crap that you're watching is downright horrifying for you. But what you're not seeing is this mass awakening that's happening on the planet right now. And there is an awakening that's happening.
I believe that.
Many people are awakening. It's just not being televised. It's
Yeah.
not in the media. But it's happening. And you have to have faith on that. And you have to keep putting your energy there. So they're more optimistic about it. They do feel like it's going, or they don't feel, they told me when Project One started that it's going to be very chaotic up until, for a while. And this year specifically is going to get even more difficult, but to keep focusing on the higher energy, because they say it's this immense higher energy that's being anchored into the planet through the human body, through the human system of all these people awakening. And that's why all these lower energies are going crazy right now. So it feels like chaos because it's so...
Well, I have a Frankieism. The Frankieism is, and I've said this for a long, long time, change happens best in chaos. You know what? When people are in chaotic and they're like, there's a big accident and you laser focus in what you have to do, everything extraneous goes away. So in that chaotic moment, you are laser focused in what has to be done. Like nothing else can be done except what has to be done to save that person or whatever, has to happen in that moment. So when things are chaotic, you don't worry about change. You're not worried about the big comfy chair and I can't step out of my circle because I'm afraid of change. You don't have a choice. You have to change. Change has happened for you. So you just have to figure out, where am I going to end up?
It doesn't feel like it when you're going through it, right? It's
no.
like, holy crap, what am I going to do? You just keep going, right?
Yeah,
you're
to.
Absolutely right. That is how change happens. Definitely.
The Chinese have two characters for change: danger and opportunity. And I think it's really appropriate because, it does feel scary to go to change your life and to have things change. But that is totally where opportunity lives. And right now, the planet, we all have an opportunity to wake up and do things, and be better than we are right now, because the lower energies are just horrific. And I think we get mired in that and get afraid of that's all there is. But it's great to be able for them to have this, this different perspective, an elevated perspective, to say, no, we see all the lights on. We see the blinking. Don't worry about it. The lights are on and people are home and, it's happening, but you're just in this little part of the world that,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's hard to see out of those four walls when you're in those four walls, but you're absolutely right with what's happening on the planet right now. And I think there's enough people on the planet that know this information that can really energetically lift the rest of the planet. I really believe that, or else I wouldn't be here channeling this today. I don't think so. So,
it's interesting. A couple years ago, I was doing really like a lot of spiritual work with I call her my spiritual guru. And there was a point last year where nowhere near what you experienced, but I was sitting in a restaurant and all of a sudden it was like everybody in there was light. They were all lights. And it was like I sat with souls. I didn't sit with people. I sat with souls. And this overwhelming, I just wanted to cry because it was so beautiful. I go, oh my God, they're all so beautiful. And it lasted maybe 5 minutes and it went away. And my husband was like, what? And I go, oh, you wouldn't believe what just happened to me. Like, it was just so mind blowing. And that was just a taste of what you got.
Well, but that's grace, even though it was smaller, it's still grace that you were able to see that, because I'm telling you, when a person is able to see that, that means that they can hold that information. Their soul and their body has the ability to hold that information, and they're given a glimpse of it so that they know that it's there and they can keep them propelling forward to move towards that,
Yeah.
It's amazing when somebody has that experience.
It was pretty amazing, that's for sure. But, I mean, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine being you.
Oh my gosh, I was gone. Oh yeah, wow, I was definitely out there.
Have you met Paul Selig? Have you met him yet?
Oh yeah, of course. Because when I first had my awakening, I went to all Paul's workshops, and yeah, I knew him, and we even worked together for a while. So yeah,
Cool.
absolutely.
Yeah.
His information is great. His guides are incredible, and the work that he channels is truth. I will say that it is definitely pure information. So and it definitely activated me, and now I'm channeling this, which is completely different, but I
Yeah.
know it's equally as in alignment to truth and God. So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
So do they have a time on this for humanity, do you think? Did they say, oh, within 2 years or 3 years? What?
So I just actually kind of checked in the other day because I feel like a creative project is getting ready to bloom, or meaning like something else is getting ready to come through. And they said that basically right now, they really need to do as much this year as possible. They said they don't actually want me dictating another book, because they want me to start doing more workshops, and more also in-person workshops where I can start working on people again, but not, in a way that's obviously safe. But they say it's time to start doing that again. So they said in order to reach people faster, rather than doing another book, because that will take too much time, this year you need to really activate as many people as possible. So basically I'm doing all energy activation for pretty much until they tell me not to, and I'll do channeling in that energy activation. But they say that right now is a time for huge female activation. Where women can actually, if they can just sit in the energy, the energy will do what it needs to do. But they said, I can channel too, and I will, but it's more about energy activation this year.
So how do you do the energy activation? How do you do that?
Just by grounding in the energy, awakening everything that I have the ability to awaken. Doing the womb awakening, bringing in that higher energy through my crown, the womb awakening through my womb. They've really given me this ability, this system to work with, so that I can begin working more with people again. And hopefully that will, I was just telling my husband about it today. I was like, I have to start working with people like right away. I have to, I'm being called to do it. Because that's the fastest thing I can do right now. And it's also women, I'm finding that it's powerful women that have the ability, like you said, like you held that information where you saw all those souls. It's women like you that can hold that information, that can take that out into the world and do what they need to do with it. That's what it feels like right now. As far as like humanity, they say it's the new birthing of humanity is much sooner than what we realize. They say that we are on the verge of it. They said that right now, if you compare us to a pregnant woman, right before she gives birth, she's in the darkest spot where she just doesn't think she can go anymore. They said we're right around that phase right there.
Wow.
Right in that spot.
I remember being there. Take it out.
We're in that. We're almost to the take it out.
Yeah.
And they said we're much closer to the birth than what you realize, what humanity realizes.
And I wonder what that looks like. I can't even wait. I wonder if we'll be here for that.
Oh yeah, I think we are. I think that we are. Yes, I do. I feel like that. I feel like it's very soon. Now, as far as like this utopian, like new planet of like high beings, I think they're just coming into the world right now,
But it's not like what do the Catholics call it? Is it the rise, the revelation?
Right.
You get that sense it's like that, where people just go up and poof, or
So yeah, this is actually something really interesting. Do we have enough? Can I?
Yeah, we got time. Yeah.
Story.
No, they're not gonna be bored.
Okay, so
Started a little late anyway.
I did receive this information when I gave birth myself, and I really believe it. It's kind of crazy, but I don't often have these kind of premonitions. But the night I gave birth, right before I gave birth, I had this out of body dream, and in the dream, spirit came to speak to me, and they showed me what the world was going to be looking like through my lifetime. And they said many people are going to die off, and they said it's going to be a time of chaos. It's going to be very chaotic. And I said, well, I don't want to bring a new soul into the world during this time. Then that's not right. I can't do that. And I said, why is this happening? And they said, because the souls that are actually passing are choosing to leave this world because they don't want to endure the chaos anymore. They actually want to choose to leave. And then the people that are left are going to have to be the ones that are going to elevate humanity. Yeah, they're the ones that are going to have to really bring it up. So they said, the soul, you're having a soul to help the elevation of consciousness for humanity. That's why the soul is coming into the world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why many of the souls that are coming into the world right now are coming, is obviously for that reason. So it's going to happen, over the course of our lives. And, I think we just have to keep being focused on this new earth that is emerging, and it is, and we have to be able to support and help each other through these times to have faith, trust in the unknown.
Yeah,
so
I agree. So I guess, even though they want you to work with people, you can still work online with people because it's energy work. You don't have to be in the same room. You can still stay safe and keep your family safe with COVID and all of that.
I'm going to be doing a lot more online groups and a lot more in-person groups, both together. Just really, that's what fall is going to be like. And then come the new year, I'll reassess and see where I'm guided to go from there.
Yeah.
But that's what they said is like, it's all about activation right now, because there's a lot of powerful beings that really can hold this information, and once they've been activated in the energy, they'll just start remembering everything. It will just be like seamless for them.
So tell folks where they can get you, where they can find you, and the work that you're doing. People can hire you for readings or for understanding what their purpose is and yada yada. I don't mean to trivialize it, sorry.
Oh no. You're not trivializing it. So it's allystorm33.com, just like my name with a 33.com. And all my information's on there, where to contact me and get readings and all that kind of stuff. And that's pretty much it right now.
And I'll give you the Frankie stamp was that it was probably one of the most significant readings I've had ever.
Oh, thank you.
So I hope people will reach out to you.
Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, no worries.
What?
I said, no worries. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I mean, it was really exceptional. And so, yeah, if you've watched this, share it. Please share this interview with everybody that you know, especially if you're somebody who feels like you're in the spiritual realm, that, this is the kind of work that you want to do, help humanity to grow and, find unity. Just share this interview, please. And go and get Project One. It's on Amazon. You can get it as an ebook. You can get it as a book, I guess, hardcover. And it's not, it's not a big long read. It's a fairly easy read. I mean, you can tell that it's channeled words, but it's still understandable.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly a good description of it.
All right. Well, we're going to say goodbye to Facebook now. Goodbye, Facebook people. We'll see you there.
Bye. Thank you.
And I'm just going to stop our recording.